Welcome. Let's have a look at some movements which can feel great in general and can sometimes help to ease out backs if they feel a little bit stiff. If you know anything around pain science, you'll know that pain is very complex, and we couldn't say that something as simple as a few movements was going to alleviate back pain necessarily or heal back pain. But nonetheless, here's some go-to moves if you are a bit tired and achy. I'm not suggesting that your posture is creating the back pain or anything like that, but sometimes what the nervous system craves is some new input or some loading, weight bearing in new ways. So let's have a little explore and see how that goes. So we're going to start just near the wall. We will go to the mat after, or if you don't have a mat, that's fine. And we're going to just reach over into the walls. I'm going to lengthen through the side bodies. I'm going to stand relatively near, about shoulder, arm length away, and then just literally reaching over towards the wall. And you can try different postures with the pelvis or with your spine if you want to. So if you kind of want to feel a little bit that stretch in a little bit of a different way, try sticking your bottom out or under a little bit more. And it might be that you've just got tired of being or standing in one particular position. And then from there, just bring both hands to or towards the wall and start to lean in towards the wall. So instead of going directly sideways, you're kind of coming forward and across. And then we're just going to swivel the feet and end up with both hands high, and then pull back to your bottom. So you're drawing back at the hip crease and lengthening. And you might want to walk the hands a little bit lower. You don't need to go diving down, just keep it quite contained. And then put in little cat-cow movement. So just find your breath and arch your spine one way and the other. The knees could be bent. And then just a little side-to-side movement with the hips. For that, I'm staying with a relatively long spine, relatively neutral pelvis, at least in my intention. And then we're going to take that to the other side. So standing on the other side, reaching to the wall. Let yourself reach up, lengthen up, and then over as far towards the wall as is comfy. Just notice your breath. All these different directions are quite useful to feeling the breath in different areas. So you might feel it more into that long side of the body there. You may, again, want to do a little bit of pelvic tuck and sticking your bottom out. So anterior tilt when your tailbone goes back. Posterior tilt of the pelvis, if you think of this whole bowl of the pelvis tipping backward or forward. And just kind of check out with the breath how that feels. And then you might want to start doing that reaching forward action more. Maybe sideways and forward. Just go in your own time, listening into what your body wants and desires and craves, reaching towards the wall then with both hands and start to turn. So just having some quite interesting different movement patterns. You might want to keep the hands quite high to really help lengthen through the back, or you might want to come a little bit lower and we'll just arch the spine, flex the spine, maybe bend the knees to facilitate that, pull the tailbone in or towards the pubis, and then let the spine concave or go into spinal extension. Good, and one more. And go to a more flat back, a more neutralish spine, whatever that feels like for you. And curve your lower back towards one side and towards the other side, exploring all the different movements from your tail. And there's very interesting things with pain that it's not necessarily where there's tissue damage that we get pain. So then we're going to sit at the wall and press the back into the wall. So you're kind of sitting and maybe drawing the shoulders a little bit broad, and then draw your tailbone forward. And then either to neutral spine, so just pressing back with your waist, or you could concave the spine a little so you've got a gap there. You just see which of those feels like your body is enjoying, if either. If not, just don't do it. Move with your breath. So moving with the breath just helps us connect into the nervous system. You might want a couple of slower exhalations to create that calming response through the nervous system, because we know that when we're more in fight or flight mode, that upregulates pain. In other words, the nervous system interprets any sensation that we have. And if we're a bit stressed, it interprets it as being more painful. Good, so your sacrum is in the back of the pelvis, somewhere like this, but in the back. Now imagine drawing a circle around the sacrum and let your body move around that circle one way and the other. These are really good practices as well. You can probably feel that you get some good wake up in the pelvic floor. So they're generally good practices during postnatal periods, that kind of thing, circling the other way. If you do have a baby or your friends have babies or you teach that, you can always sit baby here or have a little bit of a more weight bearing with baby there. So circling around, lengthen out the legs for a moment, take as much of a break as you want to. And then we're going to roll down from the upper back first. So you could bend the knees again and start with the head on the wall and the back towards the wall, and then let your chin go down. And you're going to see, can you move incrementally down through the spine? I think that's the right word. So you're imagining that it's one vertebra at a time. Obviously, in reality, it's quite hard to feel 24 distinct vertebrae. Come as low as you want to. Again, if flexion is bothering you, sometimes it's the forward fold that feels less comfy. You don't need to go down. Sometimes it's the back bend shape that's more bothersome. Roll up from the lower back. Kind of scoop your pelvis under a little bit as you come up. So there's a lot of really interesting research telling us not to be too worried about the body and about alignment, even if you look a bit wonky, etc., etc. That doesn't necessarily equate to pain or discomfort. But of course, just being sensible, seeing what feels good for you or not. Just continue rolling up and down, maybe another 1 or 2 times. So just finding what it is that feels good for you, and being reassuring, not panicking about pain. All of these things can help to down-regulate pain. Let your pelvis scoop under a little as you come up. So a lot of the things that are in common thinking have been related to back pain, things like anterior pelvic tilt. When they do the scientific research, there's no correlation between posture and pain. There's no direct correlation. So that's nice because we can let go of our worry in lots of ways. Press your body back towards the wall with straight legs or bent legs. And then we're going to bring the arms up and reach across to the side. So if your shoulders are feeling like your arms don't want to come all the way up, that's fine. But otherwise you can reach to the wall. And then you're going to reach across to the side. You can catch the wrists to pull across and keep your waist back at the wall now. So you're kind of towards a flat back as much as is comfortable for you. You might want to look up inside of that arm and then back to center and then go to the other side. Another area of the body that often gets blamed for pain is that strong quadratus lumborum muscle in the lower back. But again, there's no particular reason why that should be responsible for pain. It just happens to be an area that people often experience pain. But my understanding is that in the lower back, there's lots of nociceptors, so receptors which can experience pain. So it's not necessary that there's something wrong there with the tissues. Good, come in from there. Fantastic. And then we'll come just into the room. If you've got a mat, you can have a mat handy. And we'll come into one more sideways stretch from there. So I'll mirror you. So imagine circling the left leg behind and rest maybe on the outer edge if that feels okay, and then reaching across again. You can bend your knees again if you want to. Now, if you feel steady enough, you can swoosh forward and down from here. If you're not feeling steady with your legs crossed, just do that same forward and down action. It's a bit like we had at the wall, just doing more than one dimension at once. You can hang out folded down. Maybe your legs aren't crossed, maybe the knees are bent. And then from either position, swooshing up the same way. And then the other uncrossing if they crossed. Other side, legs might be crossed or not. You can rest to the outer edge if that feels comfy. Leaning across. Again, if you know that you always tend to hold your back in one angle, try altering the angle if your back has been feeling tired or tight. Coming forward and down. Soft breath in and out. And then coming up. And all the way up. And uncrossing from there. Yeah, fantastic. We're going to roll down along the spine. So just let yourself roll like we did at the wall. You've got less feedback, obviously, on the body because you haven't got that feedback from the wall. So just rolling any way that feels good for you. Start to walk your arms forward and have your hands under your shoulders and then lower your knees to the ground. So another thing that we used to think correlated to back pain was a weak core, but this is another thing that has been shown to not be the case. So you don't need to worry about the core. So tuck the toes under, slide the leg back and take the opposite arm forward and just feel like you're lengthening from your back heel to your fingertips. Sometimes we feel quite attached to ideas like you need a strong core to alleviate back pain because we're so familiar with that, or maybe we've worked with that for a long time. So I'll just reference any papers that counter that. And it's not that you might have a particular need to work in a way for your body. I'm not saying that you don't. I'm not trying to undermine anything you believe for yourself. Good. Once you've lengthened there, tuck your knee in towards your elbow and around your spine. And then lengthen away again. And this time you might want to bend the knee so the leg is high and you can feel the glutes engage. Or you could just stay with the toes on the floor and then we can keep that feeling of engagement and length through the body. So here or here, rounding, tucking in. Last one, lengthening away. Rounding, tucking in. Coming down. And then on the other side, let's just take a little wrist break. So you could be on the top or the back of your hands or just lifting up onto fingertips and back again. So whatever feels good for you, just lengthening out through the wrists. Through the extensor muscles, lovely. Sliding back through the leg. As you slide back, stay with that sense of quite neutral pelvis for now. And take the opposite arm forward. Just find your breath there, just pushing down steadily through the limbs. So you've got that feeling of stability and length coming. And then when you exhale, hug in. Trying to keep that feeling of stability and lengthen away again. And this time you might want to keep your foot down or you could bend the knee and be just feeling the contraction on the back of the leg and over your glutes. Curling in, rounding the spine, lengthening away or heel up, one or the other. And curling in, bringing that all the way down. Fantastic. Let's just come down onto the forearms. Roll your arms in and out from the elbows a couple of times. Walk your arms forward or your knees back so you've got a long spine. And then see, can you lift up even higher to your bottom so you're just feeling like you're lengthening on the thighs, lengthening on your spine. And then walk your hands to the right side. You can either keep them separate or stacked. You might want to try gliding your hips away from your hands or back and down towards your heels just a little. And then through center, go to the other side. Do a little bit more of this lengthening. Feeling the whole side body, keeping that sense of lift to the sit bones. Or maybe you want to try exploring gliding the hip side or back a little bit more. Good, and then coming all the way back through to center. Good, tuck under with your toes. Walk your hands in towards your knees, round your spine, and feel like you're pulling forward or under with your tailbone. And now just drop the weight of the head. Let your head rock side to side. It's like your chin traces along the collarbones. And then pull down a little with the tailbone and just roll up along the spine. So you're in tall kneeling. Good. Hold your pelvis. Just see what kind of angle you want at the pelvis. I tend to try and go quite neutral here rather than anterior, which would be my normal habit. Good. And just see if you can really get that feeling of the legs strong, tailbone long towards the knees, and then leaning back and forward. When you come forward, let your arms reach back so your chest opens. Leaning back, some strong quads and glutes. Just take a few of those. Pad under the knees if you prefer. You might find you can go quite low. Lovely. And then step forward with your right leg. Good. Lifting up from there. Reaching back towards that left heel. Lift with the chest. Lovely. And then put your hand onto your leg. And just round your spine as much as you can. So you're bringing your head down, flexing your spine back, and dip forward and up with the chest, and then round the spine again. As much as you can. Forward and up with the chest. It's not a very easy position to do lots of spinal flexion, but as much as you can. You could do this with your knee on the floor if you feel like you're just wobbling. That would also be totally acceptable. Let's bring the arms forward. And then we're going to tiptoe this back leg in and back a few times. So now you're really feeling a bit more work probably on that right leg and maybe in the glutes there. Yeah, fantastic. Lower down. Come through to kneeling. You can have a little balance challenge if you want to there as you lift the leg back. Come through on the other side. Good. You can keep the knee down or lifted and just go through a little bit of spinal movement. One way and the other. Really just familiarizing yourself with how that feels for you in the body, whether that knee is up or down. How it feels to glide between those different positions. Good, and then let your weight come through that left leg more. Reaching up to fingertips. Feel like you're pulling to your fingertips. Maybe keep the lower ribs scooped in a little, particularly if you tend to arch your spine as your habit. Just interested in switching habits. Good, tiptoe forward. Keep loading up through that left leg so you can sit quite low with that left knee if that works for you. Good, do as many as you feel you can manage, and then we'll end up with the feet together or hip distance apart, standing up really tall. Just reach down through your arms, reach into your feet, soft in and out breath. Good, we're going to do a little bit of movement through the spine into a twist pattern now. So let's just start with hands on knees. Lengthen to crown of head. Check your back feels comfortable enough. And then we'll start with right hand, just sliding in front of the left hand. So you feel the shoulder blade move a little. And then the other. So you're putting in a little side to side reach. So you can reach across the line of the body. This does work with straight legs. So if your quads are asking for something different, let that happen. And now let's internally rotate at the shoulder joint. So you can just turn the whole arm and swivel and just kind of check out how that's feeling around the neck and the shoulder. And you might want to dip down your shoulder towards your hip. Good, then hands at the heart, and we're going to go to that twist pattern now. Left elbow towards the right knee or onto the right knee and turn the chest. Good, then lift the knee away. No, elbow away. So you're staying in the twist pattern. Good, lift through center. Arms could come forward or high. Touch on the other side if that works for you. Smooth in and out breath. Lift away after a breath or two. So you stay in the twist pattern. Lovely, and then take a forward fold from there. if that works in your body. You can have your knees as bent as you want to. Good. Now slowly start to take some steps back into a down dog. Pushing well into your hands. Find your smooth breath in and out. And we could try the cat-cow pattern here, or put the knees down if you prefer. So rounding the spine, maybe with a bend in the knees. And then let the spine go the other way. And you might want to make it quite fluid, as if rolling forward from the lower back. And then down again from the lower back. Or you can make it more slow with each breath. Fantastic. Let your knees come all the way down to the ground. Kneeling up tall one more time, and once more stepping forward with the right leg. This time we're going to go to the side. Double the mat if you prefer under your knee. And then lift up with your arms. And then reach over. Good. And just come in a little ways and reach forward and back a little. And just kind of check out what feels good for you in your body. Yeah, if the pose isn't working, feel free to have a bent knee there or block under that foot, whatever works for you. Explore, explore. Yeah, if you just want to just reach directly to the side, let that happen. And if you want to reach this arm behind and open up the chest a little bit more, then let that happen. Yeah, fantastic. Come up from there. Bring your hands down. Good. And let's get a little bit more work going on around this hip. So bending the knee, lifting the leg, knee in and out to the back. Foot can turn out. Knee towards the shoulder and out to the back. One more. Good. Turn your toes down, crisscross. And now squeeze your shoulder, left shoulder towards your left hip as you look around. Good. You might even want to lift into a funny down dog from there, just to experience a different stretch around the legs and hips, or wherever you feel it. Whenever you're done, lower. Good. Slide that right knee in, lift up from there. Fantastic. Left leg's going to reach over to the side. You can have your foot up, or you can put something underneath it. You can pad the knee, reach up with the arms. This pose is called Paragasana in Sanskrit. It means gate pose. Finding the breath and then finding that side reach. Smooth in and out breath. Again, just see where you want to go. Might be that you want to explore more asymmetrical movement patterns. Maybe that you want the arm behind the back more, so this shoulder gets a little bit more opening. Just exploring the connection to the breath. Allowing there to be some softness in the jaw and in the eyes. So all the time we're letting the nervous system know that we're doing okay. Backing off of anything that doesn't feel right. Good. Calming down with your hands, bending in with the leg, and just explore bringing that knee in and kicking back, keeping the abdomen and back fairly stable, just so we can really isolate the movement more around the hip muscles and the glutes. Good. Crisscross the leg, and then make your body a bit shorter on the right side, so looking around, squeezing around with the shoulder. And if you want to try funny things, try a funny down dog with the legs crossed. Good, and then coming down from there and crossing the legs. Good, so child pose sometimes feels like a good option. And if you want to create a little bit more space for the flexion, the forward fold action, we can adjust ourselves in child pose. Maybe using a belt, but better using a blanket or a towel or something like that. So I'm going to have this fairly wide, so it's not going to be too bulky. And then I'm simply going to roll that up a little bit. And then I'm going to pull this into the pelvis, into where the ilium are. And I'm going to pull back with the hands so that I essentially feel like I'm making a little bit more space around that lower back area. And I can kind of reach side to side to side. It's easy to, be really worried if we're a bit achy in the body. And of course, by all means, I'm not trying to suggest that you shouldn't go get medical advice, because you always should if you're worried about something. But it's also quite nice to know that often, even if the tissues have a little bit of achiness, it's not always related to anything serious. It's going to keep going. And similarly, sometimes there's achiness just embedded kind of in the nervous system. The nervous system gets used to it. So see if that feels like a nice option for you. You can support the head on blankets or bolsters, or your head might go down anyway. And then see, can you rest the awareness in the breath, and the awareness of the breath, particularly in the back of the body there. You may want to reach your arms forward so you get a little stretch, perhaps across the back of the shoulder blades, underneath the shoulder blades, somewhere like that. You might feel it. And stay as long as you need, if that feels easeful in your body. Good. And then the last little sequence that we're going to work with is actually going to be putting some load, putting some work into the tissues or the muscles and the fascia of the back of the body. Interestingly, when they've looked at movements, exercises for back pain, they've discovered that essentially it doesn't matter what movement you do, but movement per se is good for alleviating back pain. So let's do some movement which sends some information into the muscles of the back body. So we're going to roll up, tailbone lifting first. I'm going to just push down through the arms, and I'm kind of scooping under. That's posterior tilt of the pelvis again. I'm going to keep my ribs down, and I'm going to see, can I push up with my pelvis, but not with my ribs? So this is staying down. I quite like to use the hands on these bony landscapes of the pelvis and the ribs, so they kind of stay similar length. I'm not lengthening the ribs up, and I'm trying to lift with my tailbone. And you could do it all the way from down to up if that feels good. And you could also catch a weight or a child or a small dog and sit them onto your pubis. So you've got a bit more load to bear, a bit more load bearing on the tissues. So the tissues respond by strengthening and by sending new input to the nervous system if they're not familiar with it. Good. I'll just give a couple more options here if this feels good in your body. So now I'm going to stay in the lifted low bridge. I'm going to tuck my shoulder blades under a bit more, hold on for a bit of stability, and then I'm going to walk my feet forward. I seem to be wriggling my toes forward, but walk the feet forward as much as feels comfy for you. And then try and kind of stay in that low bridge so you can maybe feel the glutes and hamstrings waking up a little. You can keep going out longer through the legs. The longer the tissues are, essentially the more they have to work to maintain that same amount of load, that same amount of weight. So the lower and longer you go, the more work, or the longer you go and the more you can stay lifted, I should say, the more work is going on. And then start to walk your feet in. You can repeat that a few times if that works for you. Lift up with the tailbone, lower down from the upper back through to the lower back. Soft in and out breath. We'll just do one more, but pause if that feels enough for you. Lifting, rolling up. Shoulder blades tucking under, walking out or sliding out with the legs. Really good. Smooth breath in and out. Still see, can you stay towards that posterior tilt of the pelvis so you feel like you're lifting this upper ilium, ASIS it's called, anterior superior iliac spine. Feel like you're lifting that in towards you, and like you're lifting your hips from the floor. And then walk in with the legs. Good, lift the tailbone, rolling down. Good, soft in and out breath. And we're going to do a little bit of work through the legs before we come to the back again. If you have a belt there, you may want to grab the belt. Let's lift the right leg. Otherwise, you can have your hands somewhere behind the leg. Bend the knee if your hamstrings feel tight. I'm going to loop the belt around the foot. And then feel like you're just getting the weight of that leg to drop down towards the hip. And imagine you're pulling your hip down towards the ground. You could try and put the belt more towards the heel. So you really feel like you're pulling down. If the knee is bent, you push up into the heel, but still feel like you're pulling down into the hip. Good, try adding a little circle in. So of course, everything in the body is connected, but you can feel how these muscles around the hip and into the glutes are very closely connected to whatever's going on in the lower back in particular. Just noticing the sensations and letting your breath feel easeful. Good, take the same on the other side. So you lift the leg, push up to the heel, pull down towards the hip, either with the knee bent or straight. Feel that you're getting your pelvis to feel connected to the earth. Little circles. Yeah, good. Take your time when it's enough to release or to rest, whatever you need. Good. And then we'll do one more, lifting up from the tailbone first, along the spine. And this time we'll add some load by lifting a leg. So you might want your legs relatively closer together. And you might want to go a bit more into the back bend, so shoulder blades tucked under more. So I'm going to narrow the feet and then lift with the right leg and push down through the left heel and push up with that right heel. And I'm still trying to avoid a big arch in the lumbar, so I'm trying to keep that feeling of tailbone lifting. Now, if this feels like you can hold, push up and down a few times, so you're really charging up all around that left hip, left glutes. And then you could lower the leg and reach to your foot. Kind of almost like you're holding and squeezing everything together. Good, reach up again. One more time, pulsing. Maybe one or two more little kick-ups. Release the foot down and rolling down along your back. And then just let your back settle and soften into the ground. So not rushing to the next thing, but just softening. And then we'll take that on the other side. So you push down through the right leg and pull up through that left heel. Reach up and then start pulsing up a few times. Getting a smooth and steady movement going on. Reaching long through the leg. Good, reaching up and pulsing. So if it's too much, the single leg bridges, you can stay with the last version. And over time, you will probably find it comes more easily, rolling down from the upper back to the mid back to the lower back. Let the body settle and soften. And from here, we're going to go to a position where we cross the legs, but it's more like a gomakasana. Only thing is, it does require quite a lot of openness, so it may not work. So the option is cross the thighs, bend the knees, let your feet go out to the side as wide as they will, and let your knees come towards the body as much as they will. If this is just a physical impossibility and you're wondering how on earth that happened, then the best thing is to cross the legs lower, so more around the shins, and pull down and rock side to side. That's one option. Or this pigeon hold, so ankle over knee or thigh. And you might get a little lift up there, but making either of those as easeful as possible. Otherwise, we're in this Gomukhasana shape. Try to not just sort of drop the legs away, because then it just turns into core work, and we're trying to lengthen out the muscles around the glutes. So you might actually find you can hold lower towards the shins or the feet. Good, and then reach up and just cross your legs the other way. Bend the knees, catch somewhere on the knees or on the shins. Feel that your body's just dropping and sinking towards the ground. And then gently releasing off from there. Let your feet touch down to the ground. Good. Take a comfortable rest position, whatever that is for you. Maybe tucking something under the knees might help to posterior tilt the pelvis a little, if you feel you need that, or supporting the neck with a blanket, supporting the head. So just see if there's anything in particular you want that makes you feel as comfortable as possible. And just really create that possibility for there to be ease in the body. So even if you only have 10 or 20 seconds to rest, just make that the most soft, easeful breath you've ever had. If you've got a bit longer, I'm going to rest with you. So we'll just take a minute together. So let the shoulder blades feel like they're tucking under. Just feel that the fabric of the body is releasing down to the ground. And just have a sense of that really good work that you've just done through the body, exploring all different directions of movement, exploring some strengthening of the body, and hopefully some novel input to the nervous system, knowing that that can be one way for us to start to perceive and experience the body differently. And whatever your experience is in this moment, whether there's a little bit of achiness or not, or tiredness or ease, whatever it is, have a sense that you're having some space around that. If there's any pain or discomfort, see the pain or discomfort, and then notice that your awareness is broader than that. That pain or that discomfort is not you. You are not that pain or discomfort. Or sometimes there's some mental distress, and in the same way we can see whatever's going on, but also see some space around. Notice the connection between the body and the ground and the earth. Perhaps as you exhale, imagine breathing down into the ground softly. Perhaps as you exhale, you feel that the muscles or the tissues of the body can soften a little more. And simply giving your body thanks for all of this work, giving yourself thanks for this time. And you may want to just experience gratitude for this practice of yoga, or take a moment to experience gratitude for something else in your life. And then slowly, whenever you feel ready, lift the knees in towards the body, towards the torso. Just hug your legs in towards the body and pull your sit bones away so your body lengthens, the back body lengthens. And then move slowly, gently to your side, resting on your side. And when you're there, let the eyes just softly open, letting the color and light come in. And then just staying with any qualities of ease. Let your weight come through your hands to come through to sitting. Sit comfortably, whatever that is for you, whatever that means for you. Good, and thank you for practicing with me today.